Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Guided Way. I am your guide, Sean McCauley, and I'd like to welcome my ever-present, always silent, and ever-perseverant buddy Orko. And you're going to be holding today's card, if you chose this card, the Warrior. Because being a warrior doesn't necessarily mean about being a brute strength. Because you may be in the military, and, maybe you're going with some issues, but, there's also all kinds of different types of warriors. There are, like, the single mom who, works two full-time jobs and manages to get her kids to the soccer game on time. Or, the one guy who's struggling with school, and he's trying to get to the end of his day so that way, he can get to his next job so he can pay his tuition. There's all kinds of different types of warriors, and we all struggle with whatever battle that we're dealing with. And so, doesn't necessarily mean that you've gone into combat. But sometimes when we're struggling with something, we have to kind of take on the mindset, I can get up, I can do this, this is going to get done. But sometimes, warriors feel a sense of defeat or incompletion. And so that's what today's card is going to be talking about is, what the warrior in you may or may not be feeling at this point in time. So we're going to jump right into it. Again, this card, the warrior card, came from the House of Knight Oracle cards of the Wisdom deck by Colette Baron Reed. And I'm going to start things off with the Major Arcana from the Vampire deck made by Ian Daniels. And I'm going to, shuffle and cut. And this will be the card. Another quick shuffle and a cut. And another cut. And we will turn these so that way they can be seen. And the first card is Judgment, and it's reversed. So you could be judging yourself too harshly, or maybe feel that others are judging you way too harshly, and, maybe not everything about the situation has come into light. And because, where people who are struggling with something, they often get misjudged frequently because, well, he's ignoring me, he's not paying attention to me, she's not doing this, she's not doing that. We got other things going on. So sometimes, when we're struggling with something, we're getting judged unfairly because we're not paying attention to other things that concern others. We're dealing with things that concern us because, that's what warriors do. They fight the battles that, that need to be fought. The Star. So the star, not reversed, it's upright. So that is a sign of peace. That is a sign of hope. That is a sign of healing. So, maybe you have come into the mindset of, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks. I got to do this and I got to take care of me. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Empress. And unfortunately, she is reversed. She is a sign of authority. She is a sign of power. But since she is reversed, sometimes you let your emotions get the better of you, and you take action, and you're not acting on a logical level. You're acting on a very emotional level. So maybe you kind of gotten to this point that I'm taking care of me, and you maybe lashing out at others, and maybe you don't mean to be, but you're trying to take care of what you got to take care of, and that may be off-putting to other people. So when dealing with that, try to keep, in mind a degree of temperance, because some people, they don't stop and think. They don't use temperance as their guide because they just react to a situation, and they don't necessarily let time for everything to sink in, and they just explode. So don't instinctively or impulsively just let your emotions get the better of you. stop and think. Use your temperance. Make sure that you're responding with the right emotion, with the right level of emotion for the situation. Don't just blow up and overreact, but also, don't be demeaning and just, think that whatever else is going on in somebody else's life, that it might be menial, because that in turn, may be hurting others. Because part about being warriors is that we're also protectors. We're not just fighters. We're protectors. So we have to keep other people in mind. And when I say we, I'm not necessarily meaning me per se. I'm meaning other people who are going through like their warrior phase right now. And we will go into the Ethereal Major Arcana, the Ethereal Visions by Matt Hughes. Because I just kind of like to use this as a backup guide in a spread. And we'll just do shuffle and we'll do a cut. And that's the card. Shuffle and cut. Right there. Shuffle and cut. A High Priestess. And to me, for you, she is reversed. For me, she's upright. So, I'm going to just look her as, since I'm trying to set this up for you to see in the camera, this is going to be reversed. But at this point in time, you're inspired by something, but you gotta be able to translate and move your inspiration and your thoughts into action. Now is the time of action, because you've had your time to stop and think, and now it's time to, get your muse in motion. But also, don't become obsessed. Don't allow yourself to just run away with what you've got going on. The Magician. And for you, he's appearing upright. So at this point in time, that's a sign of power. That is a sign of discipline. That is a sign that you're trying to take action and be responsible for what you have going on, for what you're attempting to do. And you have the power within yourself to get down what you've got going on. And you have the tools, but now you need to, kind of harness that energy and focus it and direct it and put it into a positive action, put it into a positive motion. The Devil. And for you, the Devil is reversed. So, this is somebody who is very attractive, very alluring, very appealing. But when I see this card, some people will say, well, this is, the sign of bad things. Sometimes we all got a little bit of a devil in us. We all have a little bit of angel in us. We all have the capacity to do right and wrong. We know the difference between black and white. We know what's going on. But, also at this point in time, it's also a card where, you might be tempted to act on impulse. And maybe you are, giving into, indulging in pleasures, not just, mental or psychological or emotional pleasures, but maybe you're indulging in physical pleasures. But you also have to be careful not to stay in that for too long, because that's kind of where, we stay in it and we get too addicted to certain things and we get stuck in that and we find it hard to move on. And you have to watch for a tendency to repress or push back our wants and our needs and our desires as well. So, maybe, at this point, with this, you've kind of fallen into a relationship or a business arrangement, and, maybe you've gotten taken away by your ideas of power, and maybe you're kind of using that to your advantage, which is fine, but there's a difference between taking advantage of something and then just taking it for granted. But now we're going to go into the actual visions spread. and get a little bit more information about what's going on around the warrior here. And that was not a popper, that was just a drop. Now let's do a quick shuffle. And that's the first card. Second. Third. Now, as I said, when I lay this out, this looks kind of like an eye. And, you know, when I use this spread, you know, I feel like, you know, I can see the story unfold a little bit better and kind of tell the tale of what's going on behind the warrior a little bit better. And I can interpret it, you know, a lot easier. But then again, you know, different cards, different books, they will all have a different indication of, you know, what they feel that the cards mean. And everybody who does this also will interpret the cards differently, because, you know, some people say, well, that's wrong, and that's not quite accurate. Well, you know, I've been using different books, and I've been doing all kinds of different books, and I've been going out of my way to kind of look at the cards and perceive what I feel that they're telling me and what they're explaining to me. And so, like I said, everybody has a different way. So, you know, you have to be kind of mindful of that. And so, you know, but since this is me doing this, you know, because I'm not going to be one to beat around the bush and say, hey, everything's, you know, all peachy keen and wonderful. And I'm not going to say, hey, you know, this was a really good spread, or, you know, if it's bad news, I will tell you if it's bad news, because, you know, I believe in being honest. But since this is the first card in the spread, we'll flip it over, and the Three of Swords. So the warrior, you're struggling with something right now, and possibly, you know, you're dealing with something mentally and emotionally. You know, you feel like you've been being betrayed. And so there may be, you know, not just you involved, but maybe a few others involved with what you're dealing with right now. So what you're dealing with is not necessarily just something of, you didn't necessarily create the situation yourself entirely. There are others involved. The World card. And the World card, upright for you, it's always a really good sign. You know, so, you know, maybe you kind of caught on to what was going on fairly quickly, and maybe you were able to try and shift things, you know, for the better towards your direction. And, you know, maybe you've gotten to a point to where, you know, you got to a point of where you finished something, and you got reached a certain point, and you can't go any further. So, you know, you need to find a way to start something else. But with this Three of Swords here, this may be that, you know, you've come to terms that, you know, something bad happened that you had to go through, and maybe part of you being able to go on to the next cycle of your life or start on your next accomplishment is that you just decided to cut away what hurt you the most. But again, we'll go on to the next card. The Sun. And unfortunately for you, it's reversed, but it's not a bad thing, because as you see, you know, it's a little, you know, a toddler holding a sunflower, a little aura. So it's saying that you did the right thing, and, you know, go ahead and enjoy the moment for the time being, but don't just, you know, stay in that one spot and just wait for the other shoe to drop. So I think that, you know, you're kind of cynical, you're kind of skeptical that, you know, should I be feeling this right now? What else is going to go wrong? So this is telling you, enjoy the moment. The Knight of Wands, and for you, it is upright. And that normally a really good indication, because, you know, not every night that what shows up in a read is good, but since it's upright, you know, you found the passion, and you're able to basically get started what you need to get started, and, you know, whatever it is that you're excited about, you're ready to start this new adventure because there's a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So you're ready to start. So, but I'm kind of coming back to this one, the Three of Swords. That I'm thinking that this left you at a point to where you're still hurting, but what I'm worried about is that you're finding yourself in a position to where you can move on, but I'm worried about that everything is moving so quickly for you that maybe you have not necessarily given yourself the proper time to grieve as you should, and maybe and that's kind of that's that I keep coming back to that because that just really seems to pop out at me. So let's go on to the next card, the Eight of Shields. So I see motion, and of course it's upright for you. I see motion. I see so you becoming really good at something, and you've gotten to a point to where you're learning to do the best that you possibly can, and maybe you found a new job or a new career or something that you really enjoy doing, and you are able to get away from this negativity, and or maybe that's just your warrior, and you're saying, I've had this bad situation. I'm not just going to stay in one spot. This has come to an end, so it's time to start something new. And you took your time to celebrate, and whatever adventure you're starting, you got the tools and you've got the skills to do it. But again, I'm still coming back to that one card. I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly here, but the Five of Shields, and that's kind of where I was kind of driving at. Is that sometimes you get into a point where when you're charging ahead, you're getting really good at something, that maybe at this point in time, you're needing something. Maybe you need to, because if you look at this card upright, you see these two people off in the background. You see these three people right here gathered around the fire. So maybe you should be helping others, maybe with your mastery and your skills. That could be my mindset to where you've mastered these skills and you've earned your place, and you need, so you don't necessarily, but it could also be that you're finding that you need something. Maybe you need more tools, maybe you need a little bit more experience, and or maybe you just need more resources. But this is a period where you need to kind of stop and get things in order so that you can move on from this point, because you may be sitting down by the fire and you may be warm, but these people are so focused on the fire that maybe your actions have caused to push these people away, or maybe something you said or something you did, and maybe you guys gotten to a point where maybe your sense of apathy, or and sometimes when we get really good at doing something, we know what needs to be done, we know how to get it done, and sometimes you know our wisdom and our knowledge get the better of us, and that transforms into conceit, to narcissism, and maybe even ego. So just be mindful of those around you, and if if you're the one sitting in front of the fire, you know maybe you should be asking other people if you can help them. The Eight of Swords, and this is where things are going to take a downturn for you, because unfortunately with the Eight of Swords it's reversed, and even that, when it's upright, that's a symbol of feeling trapped and feeling isolated, and maybe you feel like you can't get yourself out of what you've gotten yourself into. And so at this point in time, you feel like you may have talked yourself into you feeling trapped, and you feeling isolated, and you not being able to find the direction that you need to go in. The Six of Wands, and it's upright. So I see that the warrior in you is ever perseverant and very willful, because The Six of Wands is an indication of celebration. So maybe you've gotten, maybe you've gotten out of your rut and you were able to accomplish your goals. Maybe you've gotten an achievement, or maybe you've gotten an award or something. But the thing is that you're going to get out of this spot where you feel trapped. And so you've got to find the solution that you need to get away from there. And we're going to go right to the pupil, right in the dead center. And it's upright for you, the Fool. And this is a very powerful card because you've set out to do what you wanted to do as the warrior. You were able to get over your hardship. You was able to, go through the changes and transformations that you needed to. And you've had your small celebrations and were able to start something new. And you mastered it. But, I'm thinking that, because you were in a position to help others that maybe you didn't. And that kind of puts you in that spot where you felt trapped. But you were able to find your solution and move yourself forward. And so, sometimes people think that, moving forward or an achievement is, some great accomplishment. I heard or recently learned something, something about 1%. If you do something really good, pardon me, if you do something really good one day, and then the next day, if you do it 1% better, even that 1% is an achievement, because that's 1% better. Because if you can keep doing that day by day, in 10 days time, now you're doing something 10% better. And then, 20 more days, you're doing something 20% better. So I like to kind of keep that in mind. And, so like when you're going with the Fool and you're going with, the achievement that you just had or your successes, because my thing is that it may be a small success, but there is nothing small about gaining ground. Because when you are able to put one foot in front of the other and you're able to just keep moving forward, sometimes that's the achievement. And, it may seem slow and small, but, give it 7 days, 7% better. Give it 10 days, 10% better. But, enjoy the successes of even that one small percentage, because that shows progress, that shows growth, that shows expansion, that shows that you're willing to learn and you're willing to help others. And that is for this read. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe. And say goodbye to my little buddy Orko. Bye, Orko. And thank you for watching. Stay safe and be blessed.